find in the town to be bored out of my mind.
The California Delta is an amazing waterway. There's 1,200 miles of navigable water out here. You're going to see today we're going to fish everything from kind of a wide open marshland to the back of a residential area. The California Delta is home to migratory fish like stripers we're targeting today, salmon, Chinook salmon, steelhead. You've got sturgeon in here, catfish, a whole range of different panfish. There's multiple bass species, black bass species like largemouth, spotted bass. We have smallmouth bass here, and obviously the stripers, which we are targeting. So it's a really dynamic fishery. There's great sight fishing for carp here in the summer months. One of the really unique things about the California Delta is how close it is to major metropolises like Sacramento and the San Francisco Bay Area. It's just within an hour and a half, you can be at SFO and you can be out here fishing in the Delta. So that's pretty unique. And it's the fourth largest estuary in all of the Americas. I think a lot of people outside of the Bay Area really don't even know the Delta exists. They know of San Francisco Bay, but this is the tidal marsh adjacent to San Francisco Bay. It's the confluence of the San Joaquin and Sacramento rivers. It's a tidal estuary. It's majority of the water that we fish is 100% fresh water. So unlike fishing in the surf or fishing in the bay, you really don't have to do anything to your gear after you're done. You don't have to hose it off or wash it down. So it's pretty nice that way. And it's an incredible fishery. I mean, as diverse as it is, you're going to see as we go through gear. I mean, I have 13 rods rigged and ready at any one time for the different types of fishing we do. We might come into an area and target red-ear sunfish. So I got a 6-weight rigged up for that. In the summer months, we're going to sight fish the carp with that same 6-weight. There are times striper fishing, depending on the depth. We're going to go into, we're going to use a floating line, fishing topwater flies. We're going to throw an intermediate line when we're fishing like 2 to 6 feet. I have type 3s rigged up for that water depth of about 3 to 8 feet. And then T14, which is what most people think of as a line when targeting stripers. We will use that, but really in water depths, I'd say 8 feet plus with some good tidal current mixed in there is when we really use those T14 setups. But the Delta is a dynamic fishery. It's home to millions of birds, tons of fish species. It's just a really beautiful place. It's a place I've been calling home since 2002. Raising my kids out here, and it's an estuary that is pretty incredible.
To be bored out of my mind. I've been walking for days. I don't have the time to play your kind of parlay. So won't you come home soon? Won't you come home soon?
Yeah, starting in the fall, we really start keying on bird activity, and you can tell by body language, different species of birds, what exactly they're doing, what it means to fish. We see terns. Terns often tell us that there may be a feeding fish in the area, and the birds that we're really keying in on are the egrets. Egrets are a good sign that there have been stripers in the area pushing bait right up against the rocks, and the egrets will sit there in an area and pick them off. If you see the egrets flopping their wings, that's probably a good sign there's a feeding fish in the area. And then we're actually seeing boils in a given spot, so that will definitely key you into a place that we need to throw our fly immediately. One thing, when I see anglers that are new to the Delta and they might be in a boat with an experienced angler, you could have the same rod, the same line, the same fly, and the experienced angler might catch 30 or 40 fish, and the newer angler might only catch a handful, 4 or 5 fish. And they're often they're casting just as far, they're putting the fly in the right place, they're wondering, why am I not getting bit as often as this other angler is? And 100% has to do with the retrieve. Stripers feed by sight, by scent, but most importantly, they feed with their lateral line, so they sense injured and wounded bait fish. That's why we can often fish in water with visibility less than a foot. The stripers can feel that injured or wounded bait fish. So the retrieve is, it's a very aggressive retrieve. I wouldn't call it a fast retrieve. It's a hard retrieve, lots of hard pauses and pulls. You're really going to be moving that fly 2 to 3 feet with each strip, but then being real erratic, making the fly really jump around and then stop, kill it. Stripers more than likely will bite the fly when it's falling. They'll come into a school of bait fish, they'll hit them with their dorsal fin, they'll hit them with their tail, they'll stun and injure the bait, and then they'll come back around and pick off the wounded bait fish. So making that fly really jump and dart and then kill it, stop it, is really the key. Now as the water temperature gets colder, those stalls and pauses will get longer. Once the water temp starts dropping into the 40s, some of our pauses will be 2 or 3 seconds in between pulls. So depending on the water temp and their activity level will depend on how long we stop our pause the fly. But the retrieve pretty much remains the same, and then based on water temp we'll stall it longer or shorter. What do you think?